Hey, God bless you. Welcome to my office. I'd like to discuss a topic that most of us open air preachers have experienced, and that is getting arrested. Bible college doesn't teach you about getting arrested. And oftentimes, whenever you hear of a Christian clergy, somebody getting arrested who believes in God, there's probably a reputation of him molesting kids, stealing money from the church, doing something that's really illegal. I'm referring to standing outside, proclaiming Jesus Christ, holding a sign. That's the arrest that I'm talking about. And so I'd like to share a little bit with you. I do understand the concept of arrest. I do understand the concept of free speech. I've been arrested more times than I can ever recall. I've kind of lost count after a while. I've lost count how many times I've even been detained and placed inside of a squad car. I've been charged with more cases, but most of the time, those cases get dismissed prior to court. That's just the nature of when we get arrested. I have police departments now who contact me when they hear I'm coming in the city, and I work with law enforcement quite well. We're on first name basis. Oftentimes, chief of police have called me personally, talked to me. There are times when we've gone out into a preach, and the city attorney is there personally, shake hands just to introduce himself. And so I do know a little bit about free speech. Over the years, in cities that we preached in, after we leave, the wake of what we've done hits the city. They've actually made laws after we leave to try to prohibit our preaching, and we fought them. We went to court over these things. One of the most wildest ones was in New Orleans on Bourbon Street. When it got dark, the city actually made a law: you cannot talk about Jesus Christ or politics, or you will get arrested. Most of the Christians that showed up and Christian groups that showed up, they left that night. We did not. We went out and fought that case. We were arrested, 9 of us were, and we were able to overturn the law and change that law. So I do understand free speech. Over the years, I've had free speech attorneys that stay in their office, and then I'll call them when we leave, just because they know we're going to entangle ourselves with certain issues in certain cities. There's not a week that goes by in my office, on a phone call, on an email, I'm discussing a court case with some Christian you may not even know. Street preachers all over this country get arrested and cited and detained, and I hear about them much more than most of you will ever know. And so I do even work with some attorneys that will tell me, who is this guy? Is he a wacko, or should we actually support him? And so some attorneys actually question my judgment on whether the guy is a loose cannon or does he actually believe in free speech. I can tell you it was our case in Dearborn, Michigan that went all the way to the Supreme Court. Okay, that's a task. To understand how many attorneys will actually argue a case during the Supreme Court. Our case on Dearborn went to the Supreme Court, highest court in our nation. They actually agreed with what the circuit courts had done, so they decided not to hear the case, but it was presented to them, and they did hear it. As a matter of fact, our attorney that fought for us in Dearborn actually said, "Ruben, a lot of people don't like you, but I'll tell you this, they'll use that case in Dearborn to actually keep them safe on free speech." And so I do understand the concept of free speech. I do understand we're going to get arrested. Trust me, in my years of preaching, it's happened more times, like I said, than I can ever remember. Back in the 80s, we actually hired a Mooney attorney to help us on free speech, because we didn't have the attorneys in free speech that we have today, that most of you younger guys have today. We paid him $100 an hour, which at that time was a lot for us guys. And so when LAPD would walk up to us, we'd say, "Officer, please, you're not going to have to say anything to me. Here's my counselor. Counselor, can you please address this man?" And that's what we did. That's why we have so much liberty in Los Angeles, this massive city. We paid a price. We were arrested. We had attorneys back us up. And so we've done this. In Salt Lake City, try to get a non-Mormon attorney. We fought that city on free speech and actually cost the city millions of dollars so they can buy a section of Main Street and tell me, Ruben, it is now officially private property. You step on Main Street, you will go to jail. That's how much we cost the Mormon Church to buy a small section of Main Street next to the temple. So what I'm saying is I do understand free speech. I'm not some guy that just got cited once and now I'm an expert. I understand it. And that's unfortunate because when I grew up, only bad people needed attorneys. Only doctors needed attorneys. That was my upbringing. When I first told my mother that I had an attorney, she wept and cried because only bad people and criminals needed attorney. Unfortunately, it's not that way today. I've got more attorney friends than I can shake a stick at. Oftentimes when a guy like myself gets arrested, I have to fend off which attorney to actually use because they are willing to fight it. I don't have a reputation of getting arrested. I don't have a reputation of getting arrested. And that's a plus. That's a good thing. And you shouldn't have a reputation of getting arrested. We should work with law enforcement. Now, the reason I have this interview is for one reason. I was shown recently a guy who open air preaches and his arrest, which I think is ludicrous. Because when he was arrested, he's squealing and crying like a little girl. Possibly a homo. That's what I would expect from a homo or a female. Not an open air preacher. And I'm going to have you witness a little of this video as to how not to be arrested.
Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion, nor for prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, And here tonight we've got a corrupt officer that's trying to stop the freedom of speech in America. The Constitution was given to us. Over 1 million soldiers died. Don't you touch my Bible. Don't you touch my Bible. Over 1 million soldiers bled and died for this Constitution and the Bill of Rights that I have in my hand. And corrupt police officers want to take away those rights. And can I tell you here today, when I stand here on the blood of 1 million soldiers, Marines, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard who bled to give us the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion. And you're going to have to pull that Bible and that Constitution from my cold, dead hands. Get your hands off me. You're unlawful. You are corrupt. You are corrupt. You are corrupt. You have no right to do what you're doing. Stop twisting my arm. Stop twisting my arm. Stop twisting my arm. Washington said if the freedom of speech is taken away, then we will be led like sheep to the slaughter. And we've come to a place in America where corrupt police officers will try to take away the freedom of speech, and they are cowards that hide behind a badge, they're cowards that hide behind a gun, and they are bullies of the New World Order. Shame on them. They are disgrace to this nation. They are disgrace to every soldier that has bled and died. They are disgrace to this country we call America. And you need to wake up. You need to wake up, because this is what America has come to. This is what this nation has come to. And I'm here to tell you today that we are not going to back down and let bullies and bigots try to take away our rights. I'll stand for them if it costs me my life. I'll stand for them if it costs me everything that I have.
So I hope you enjoyed what you saw, because that's not the way to get arrested. You don't scream and cry and yell. That is ridiculous. Every guy that's ever been preaching with me, we all get briefed. If in case you get arrested, obey Romans chapter 13 and submit. Turn around, put the cuffs on, and go. This video is so wrong on so many different levels that Anybody who knows anything about free speech, you never, and emphasis on the word never, put the video of the arrest on YouTube. That's why you go to court. You don't show the adversary what it is that you have. Unless, of course, you're into video cameras and what the camera portrays with you, which I believe is what's going on with this individual. This particular individual that's been arrested, we don't have any footage on what the officers said prior to the arrest, when he ran like a little girl and he screamed like a little girl. Most officers are pretty much common sense, and they'll tell you what you've done wrong. But we know that this particular individual has a history of editing certain parts of footage to make him look good. I hope that police department doesn't contact me, or he's going to get a whole different side as to what the real street preaching community thinks about this particular individual. You don't do that. No judge in his right mind is going to allow anything like that in his court. It has to be shown in full, not edited. That's the concept. And for this individual to play this before any type of a court scene is ludicrous. Only something like that, videos and anything like that, witnesses, will come up in time. But again, he's going to put the cart before the horse. And something tells me, based upon his character, he's now going to be a spokesperson for free speech. He now understands free speech. I pity the free speech attorney that this guy's going to have, because he will most likely tell him what to do, what not to do, how to handle it, what not to do, what to file. It is amazing. I believe, in my judgment, that much of this was just done for cameras. Okay, I've been with this individual one time in Atlanta. He spent more time on angles of cameras than he did actually presenting his case. And so when an officer arrests you, it's not simple. Understand, if he asks for your ID, simply give him your ID and move on. Don't make a big issue over submitting an ID to an officer. And if he tells you that you broke the law, just turn around, put your hands behind your back, and that's why we have a court. And the court system will pretty much get it overturned. We find nowhere in the Bible where men, or even women of God for all that matter, squealed like this guy did. It is absolutely amazing. And he can't say, because I saw him, he mentioned that no, his wrists hurt and he was injured. And I believe he even had a cast to show his injury. But don't forget to support him too. That was also part of him showing himself in a cast. Let me tell you, I've been attacked more times with police officers. It's amazing that I would even support them. I've had them put cuffs on me where my wrists were almost cut and bleeding. I've had them put my head, slam it on the hood of a hot squad car in the summertime while my ears are burning. I've had them throw me in the back seat with 3 other preachers and we couldn't even breathe. And none of us squealed like a little girl. It is amazing. I've had them throw me in the back of a squad car with the windows rolled up, with the temperature over 100 degrees, and I'm burning and almost passing out. I didn't squeal. The Bible says, take it as joy. But then again, I don't do things for a video camera like this individual has a history of doing. He's more concerned about a video camera. As far as I'm concerned, what I've seen with arrests from real open-air preachers, he was doing it as a sting operation. He knew he was going to get arrested, and he tried to make the police look bad. Unfortunately, he just showed the viewers just the arrest, not what happened prior to the arrest. And like I said, he has a track history of doing such a thing. You don't do that. You don't show something on video. That happens in the discovery system when you do go to court. That's the concept. That's our court. Unless, of course, you're into yourself and it takes video. And that's what I believe happened here. It's edited. It's not shown as the real raw footage. And we just got a short glimpse of it. And now he's playing the victim card. Guys, we're told we're going to be persecuted. Expect it. That's the concept. There's a Bible verse that Jesus Christ said, and this is red letters, "Remember the word that I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you." At least the King James that I read, Jesus wasn't squealing when they hauled him away in the garden. He wasn't whining when they hauled him away. From the video that I saw, pray to God I don't sit on that jury. You busted your own arm. You twisted your own wrist. You ran away like a little girl running away. Take it like a man. How can you be a spiritual man when you can't even take it like a man? It is amazing, the men that I've associated with myself with, who are willing to get arrested if it happens. Don't purposely do it, but if it happens, we go to jail, and we don't whine. There's pictures and videos of men of God with character and backbone who are willing to get arrested. We know we're going to win the case. We know it's going to be thrown out. And let me just remind you, out of all the times I've been arrested, I've never had one charge on me, okay? Not because God's wonderful and He's looking down and taking a court of what's happening. Most courts are so filled with real criminals, most judges just toss the stuff. One time I was arrested and I had to go to a court in Beverly Hills. I was standing before the judge with 30 seconds when he tossed it out. Of course, I was rejoicing and glorying God, but there's real crime in a city. So something's going to tell me if they drop this case, this particular individual is going to pound his chest on how God was with him. I'm telling you, from most open-air preaching, they will actually do that no matter what. Now, there are circumstances where the police department want to make an issue with you. I've had men sit in a cell, including myself, a lot longer than what we were supposed to do. They kind of lost our stuff. They've kind of lost our paperwork, and they've let us out. I've had police officers put the cuffs on me, actually take me 1.5 miles away, drop me off and said, we're done with you. 1.5 miles. They were just concerned that having me there was going to cause the whole city to be in an uproar. You don't have me griping and complaining. 99.99% of my arrests are not done for the camera. They're done for that free speech so you and I can enjoy. That free speech that our military has given their life for. It's not done for fame. I can't help it. I'm involved in a lot of it. That's because of what it is that we do. But do understand, I don't do it for the sake of the camera, because it would happen with or without cameras around me, and I've got the reputation to do so. And so do understand, when God tells you that you're going to be persecuted and hated and jailed for His name's sake, it should be done joyfully, not crying like a little girl. Save that for the actual court. That's where things can happen. Within court, in the Gospels, Jesus Christ never said a word. The Apostle Paul, however, he couldn't keep his mouth shut. He continually argued on behalf of his freedom. He used his Roman citizenship in court. So we have two complete extremes of an example of what happens when we go to court. And so I say it's up to you how God uses you. But do understand, keep it in court. The police are just simply doing their job. They're responding to a call. You can say they hate you, they dislike you. That's not true. The cop is just responding to a call. Here's just a handful of cards from chief of police to lieutenants, you name it. These guys are here from cities all across this country that I've gone to, that I've worked with. You can work with the police and avoid getting arrested. That's not what I do. In fact, they tell me when they give me their cards, Ruben, please let us know when you come into town. I understand when I do things for God, it's going to cause an impact. So much so that the city might shake up, a city attorney is going to make a presence, and they're going to make laws after we leave the city. So I do understand the concept of free speech. And when we get arrested, I'm not going to whine like a little girl. As a matter of fact, I've been in a squad car with an officer who absolutely regretted having arrested me. He was this close to pulling me over, getting me out, and having me walk. The problem was the paperwork was already sent. I don't just go and get arrested and the officer doesn't even know who I am, the arresting officer. I've had judges, actual judges, on a holiday come in to a jail and get me released. Have all the paperwork shredded. I've sat in a jail cell with hardened criminals because they wanted to make a statement with me. I do understand the concept of free speech. Free speech is not the issue. Getting persecuted is not the issue. Getting arrested by police is not the issue. The issue right now is how you handle it. Turn around, put your hands behind your back, and you go to jail. You start your jail ministry, witness to the officers, but you don't holler and scream and yell at the police department and then try to, tell them that they injured you and hurt you. Hey, we've all been injured and hurt. I think, again, I don't do it for the sake of the camera. This individual does have a reputation of doing it with the camera. I say, the Bible says we're going to be hated. We're going to be persecuted. We're going to be jailed. Most of the New Testament was written from a jail cell. It's in our holy book. So getting arrested shouldn't be new. And I doubt the Apostle Paul whined and complained and screamed what you want to do. If you ever put that video of the arrest on YouTube prior to the court case, you're only looking for fame. You're only looking to pat yourself on the back. Any free speech attorney would have told you, get rid of that tape. That's the most ludicrous thing you can ever do. You don't want to do that. If there really is a case, you don't want to do that. I've watched this individual on a couple of his videos. I mean, he's street preaching only because he's on the street. Technically, there's nobody walking around him. He can't gather a crowd. He can't maintain a crowd. I might have seen a tumbleweed and a cricket go by, but nobody has a clue. He's only doing it for people on YouTube. He gives a 30-minute sermon with maybe 4 people walking by halfway inside of it who don't have a clue what it is. And then, of course, the yes-some people on Facebook are going to say, that's preaching, not like Brother Ruben. Well, that's because I'm not doing it for YouTube. If there's a crowd, I'm going to preach to the crowd. He can't gather a crowd. I don't even see why he was even bothering anybody, because there's nobody there on the streets when he preaches. Hey, if you want to give a sermon, do it behind a pulpit. Do it, behind a desk. Don't take it out on a sidewalk and claim to be a street preacher. That's ludicrous. You're going to embarrass guys like me that's been around a while. And we don't take too kindly to something like that. I don't want my good name mentioned with yours on how you street preach. Because you're street preaching to nobody. I mean, actually go to where the crowd is. That's the concept. Just because you're on the street corner doesn't mean you're street preaching. And when the police decide to arrest you, do yourself a favor. Turn around, put your hands behind your back, and get cuffed. Get hauled away. We have so many men of God who actually throughout history have been jailed. Fox's Book of Martyrs, Martyr's Mirror. Read Bunyan. None of those guys, when they were arrested, squealed like what you just saw. I expect it from a homo, I expect it from a female, but real men of God with any character, we don't find that. There's no history of that. And I doubt God's going to revise the history on how to get arrested. I thank God when I get arrested. I praise the Lord. I start my jail ministry. It's not that big of a thing. And I know before I even stand before a judge, it's going to be tossed out. Not because I'm just so special, like I'm sure you're going to hear from this guy. Courts are filled with real cases, real crime. They don't have time for people like us. Doesn't mean I'm going to abuse the court system. I do understand it more than you do. My advice to you young street preachers is if you're going to get arrested, turn around, put your hands behind your back, and then follow up. Just do what you're told. If a police officer wants to ask your ID, give it to him. Unless you're a fugitive, it's not a problem. He just wants to know who he's dealing with. It's not like the government is trying to figure out who you are and they're coming after you. I don't believe in conspiracies. Quite frankly, you're not that big of a bleep on the radar for anybody to know. I doubt maybe the mayor, the governor even knows who you are, let alone that section of state that you live in. You're really not that big of a bleep. And then you have some street preachers that go to a college campus and are detained. And they consider themselves now like-minded with John the Baptist. Let me tell you, a college campus arrest is like a security guard arresting you. Okay? If that's the biggest thing you have, don't embarrass us. That's amazing. So you had a college, that's like having a college campus article written about you. I mean, these are students. They need to find a story. So they see you, they're going to put a story. Hey, getting into the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, have CNN contact you, have nightly shows actually fly you in so they can hear what you're about. Now you're talking. But just because some college campus prints an article with you doesn't mean that's the main thing. I'm just trying to keep things real. Do understand that. We're going to be persecuted, your name's going to be slandered, and people are going to mock you. It's not the end of the world. Take it like a man, for heaven's sake. That's my 2 cents. Keep the change. I'd like to share a little bit about, we talk about being arrested. Here's what I've been arrested for on the streets of America. I've been arrested for loitering, public nuisance, trespassing, assaulting somebody, and basically it was moving a sinner out of the way, blocking the flow of traffic. I was even arrested for being drunk in public because it was cold and I was wearing shorts, and the arresting officer said I had to drink liquor to stay that warm. Nothing else can do it. Of course, there was no blood test, urine test, breathalyzer, nothing. It was just an accusation. I've several times, 3 times in Mardi Gras during Fat Tuesday, I've been arrested for disturbing the peace. It's amazing. If you know anything about Mardi Gras, how can anybody disturb any peace during Mardi Gras? 3 times. And so I've been accused once and arrested of healing the sick without a permit. You believe that? And I'm not even a Pentecostal. Most Pentecostal preachers would pay for a testimony like that. I'm healing I didn't even know what the handicap section was, but that's what they wanted to charge me. Not a problem. I laugh it off. And here's another time I was released, and after saying something, one time, well, let me give you the story. One time, I was arrested with another brother, and the officers didn't care too much with what we were doing. And he decided to get our megaphones and our banners and just throw them on the floor and haul us into the squad car. We did ask him, can he please roll up our banners? He says no, he's not concerned about that. He took us to jail. I think about 4 or 5 hours later, we bailed out. We took a taxi right to the area that we were arrested. And praise God, our banners were still in the sidewalk and megaphones on top of them. And so we do thank God. I do understand the concept about being arrested. As a Hispanic man, I was once in a Louisiana jail where this officer asked me, sitting in a cell with a bunch of drunks, he says, boy, you here legally? You an illegal alien, boy? I was in the cell with the brother, and I'm not screaming like a little girl and crying. I leaned back and I started to laugh, and I said, officer, I've been here, born and raised. He asked me if I had a green card. I said, you got my wallet. I'm sure there's a gold card in there. I have no idea, but I can tell you right now, I can quote the last 6, 7 presidents of this country. I doubt whether Drunken Bubba in here even knows who the vice president is today. You take it and you smile and you enjoy it, and you actually preserve that time. I thank God that I was privileged to be sitting in a cell for false charges. And if you don't do it that way and have that mindset, young preacher, you've got an issue with God. You need to be rewired.